Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Project Podcast presented by Project Insulin. Today, we're joined by Mr. Alexander Starr. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Starr?
Eric, first and foremost, thank you for valuing me enough to bring me in for a conversation. I am pretty much a multiracial, artistically driven person who happens to be living with type 1 diabetes. And I'm really excited to be interviewed beyond the music today because I do music for a living. So I always talk about music, but I also do diabetes for a living
Mm-hmm.
or to stay living. So to be able to nerd out with somebody who understands it, it's a plus for me because most people don't know the difference between type 1 and type 2. And I have to explain rudimentary level diabetes logic to people who don't really care about the info that I'm telling them. So to have someone like you that I can actually dive into details with and become a
Yeah,
scientist, I'm
yeah.
excited. And to have an audience of people who care about the condition that I am living with and thriving through makes me happy. Yeah.
Might have been the best intro about yourself we've had so far. Uh, one thing I did want to say is that I found it really interesting that you've told me, or on the phone recently, you told me about how no one asks you about diabetes when you do these interviews, and everyone only asks you about your music. And I was personally really excited because obviously we'll talk about music and we'll talk about that part of your life. But yeah, I'm excited you get to share another side of you, and I'm excited to be the first one to hear this part of your story. So
Let's go.
that's really cool for us too. Take us back. Where are you from? How did you grow up? And what's your life story? But also give us the intro to the diabetes story as well.
Excellent. Okay, so born in Pennsylvania, Kutztown, right outside of Allentown. Moved to Tennessee when I was 2. So I grew up in Tennessee from age 2 to age 14. Then I moved to Greensboro, North Carolina in 10th grade, the summer before 10th grade. In 10th grade, I was on varsity basketball, and the first game of the season, and I was the new kid, I scored 30 points and like 10 rebounds. Like I was a shooting guard. I got 10 rebounds. I put up numbers, and I remember them calling my name on the morning announcements. Then the next morning and shouting me out. It was like, oh, no kid. And literally like 3 more games into the season, hospital, type 1 diabetes.
Wow. So,
It happened when I was a crazy athlete. And no one in my family has it. No one in my family has type 2. No one in my family has type 1. I don't even know of any distant relatives who are diabetic. The way that I found out was we were given a state given test. I think it was called like the Terra Nova test or whatever. And the teacher said, we can't leave the classroom for 2 hours. They're like, they use the bathroom now. You can't leave the room for 2 hours once we start this test. And I was like, Miss, I gotta pee every 10 minutes. I had been extremely thirsty
mhm.
every minute of every day for a month straight. And I wasn't reaching for water. I was reaching for orange juice, or I was reaching for a 2 liter of soda or a gallon of milk. And I would literally drink a gallon of milk, put it down, pee it out 10 minutes later, and then go for the juice. And just like extreme unhumanly thirst. And my teacher told me basically, you should tell your parents to get you checked for diabetes. And I was like, for what?
Wow.
So yeah, and I told my parents, and then they took me to the ER because I had been drinking the fridge dry. And they checked my sugar in the ER. And I'll never forget this. All of the nurses and the doctors descended upon me. Like they just surrounded me, and I became a spectacle. And I'm looking around, what's going on? They were like, your blood sugar is 1300. And I was like, what does that mean? And they're like, they're like, a normal blood sugar is between 80 and 120. People go into a coma at 600. You're more than double that. What are you feeling right now? I was like, I'm thirsty. And my kidneys hurt because my kidneys I've been pissing so much that it's like my kidneys have been lifting weights and flexing, contracting.
Yeah.
So like my kidneys were sore from peeing so much, but I was thirsty. But that was about it. So I went into this whole, my dad was a college administrator. So we had good health insurance, and They checked me into Coronado Clinic in High Point, and it was actually an amazing hospital experience. I was in there for 2 weeks. The nurses were braiding my hair. They brought a Nintendo 64 to the room. It was great. It was a great hospital system, and they started training me on how to live with diabetes. They put me on the first month of my diabetes life. They put me on a diet of celery and peanut butter for the first month because
That's
they
all.
didn't. That's it. Because
Wow.
they didn't know any of the math of how I respond to insulin. Like
Mhm.
they knew nothing. Actually, first they gave me metformin
Oh
first,
wow.
first, and I was I took one pill and I was convulsing in the hallway at school. Like my stomach was hurting so bad that I was drenched in sweat from how my stomach was contracting in pain. Yeah. So yeah, they were like, yeah, he's type 1. And they put me in like this 3-month program to learn about it. And
Man.
I'm very much so a nerd. So I studied and I learned, and that's the beginning. So anyways, I could continue talking about this for 1,000 years, but
Yeah, yeah.
you got questions. So
I've got, so first of all, we've heard the story of really thirsty, having to pee a lot. That's been a common theme for a lot of people, part of their origin story, so to speak. Or wetting the bed is something that we've heard people talk about too. But to hear it come from a teacher, like while you're taking a standardized test, that's pretty unique. That's new. Would have never expected that, but very cool. Not very cool, but and what was it? You dropped 30, like you're doing really great. You're the new kid in school. You're the basketball star now, and then you get hit with this, and you're like eating celery and peanut butter every day, and you're convulsing in the hallway. What was that? Must have been the awkward coming to a new school, shooting up, and then there must have been some sort of like crash and coming back. It must have been a really hard year all around. Do you remember what that was like?
yeah, it was tough in a sense that I had to retrain myself on eating in
Mm-hmm.
general, on what food is, on and now for the first time in my life, I have to look at food with RoboCop glasses and break it down with I'm looking at this orange dude rough between 12 and 16 grams of carbohydrates, simple sugars, not complex. This has fiber in it, and so that it'll last longer, but it won't spike me. And how much am I eating? How much
Mm-hmm.
insulin is on board? How much, like all of that stuff? Like as a 15-year-old who is coming from being unbridled athletic to damn, now my blood sugar drops low and I get zoned out and I can't think and I'm spacing out in basketball practice now. And on top of that, kids, teenagers, now I'm in basketball practice like, yo, coach, yeah, I think my blood sugar's low. Oh, his blood sugar's low, coach.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, oh, yeah, let him sit down. And like that whole thing, it's a hurdle to get over, especially when like social life matters. But at the end of the day, I don't know why I was given the level of discernment that I was, but I really didn't care what anybody thought because I'm like, this is something that nobody else is gonna understand the way I understand it. So if I want to stay alive, I gotta take care of myself and I gotta do the math. So, you know, it made me really responsible for myself at a young age.
Yeah. And you're not 15 anymore, but good for you for doing that at 15. A lot of people, you've already have an identity by that point, right? You're not a kid anymore. You're like a real person with your own thoughts, and but yeah, like you have to shift your whole identity, and yeah, it's very interesting to hear that for you it clicked quickly, and I like the RoboCop analysis because yeah, it's like a great way to put it. And so it sounds like you told your coaches, you told your teammates, and they were ragging on you, but it doesn't sound like you ever shied away from it.
Mm-mm, no. And I'm gonna tell you why. I went through this when you first learn that you have this life altering condition as a teenager, like there's a mind state of rebellion. Like, why me? Why is this? I'm upset,
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. And I went through this sort of phase of whatever, I'll figure it out. And I remember having this conversation with the doctor at Coronado Clinic, basically saying, he asked me, or he told me, you know that if you don't manage your blood sugar well, 20 years down the line, you could lose your sight. And I'm like, eh. And he's like, if you don't carry, if you let your sugars go too high for too long, you can have your feet amputated. I'm like, eh. Like, you could go impotent. I was like, impotent? What's that? Oh, check my sugar right now. Whatever. Boom, boom, boom. And that had me like, oh nah, I don't want that to happen. I'm a fresh teenager. No, no, coach. I'm just getting started.
We gotta put a PG-13 on the podcast now because of you.
Hey, I was 15. I mean, but that's what got me
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
that's what got me to understand it and to really realize, yo, if I don't take it seriously, it will become serious for me.
Mhm,
So I was just like, you know what? And no, you can't explain. People ask me, what does a low blood sugar feel like? Man, it's not pleasant. It's
mhm.
not pleasant. It's basically like your fuel, your gas tank running on E. Like your check engine light comes on and your low fuel light comes on, and people ask you questions and your blood sugar's low, and you're just like zoning out. Huh? I'm not even comprehending the questions. I don't like feeling not on top of my game. I always want to feel like I'm in control and I'm on top of my game. And if I'm not controlling my blood sugars, whether it's too low or too high, it doesn't feel good. So I'm trying to stay between the lines at all times. And that's something that if you get it and you run with it, if you don't get it, you don't manage your condition. And I know a lot of people who don't manage it, and I have become mentors to a lot of people, even kids my age who rebelled and didn't have the discernment for the long term like I did. And I'm like, listen, I knew a kid, when I moved to Florida in 11th grade, a 10th grader had just got diabetes. And he heard that I got it, and I was on varsity in Florida too, because I continued playing. And he was like, man, I'm not even gonna take my insulin, man. I don't want to check my sugar, man. Oh, this is stupid. And I would sit him down. No, it's not stupid. And I give him the
Mhm.
same anecdote about what the doctor told me. And then eventually they get it and they see, yo, he's still athletic. He's semi-popular, whatever. He's living a normal life. He looks good. I guess I could do it too.
Yeah,
If you don't have somebody, if you don't have somebody that shows you what's possible, you don't know what's possible.
yeah. And I teased about the doctor conversation, but I've heard a lot of people say they wish their doctors were more upfront with them about the long-term effects of having this illness, right? Like it's not yes, a lot of people get it when they're kids, but it's still important to know that I'm sure there's a way to do it, but even 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 year olds, like they should know that the way that your body reacts to having diabetes, like if you don't take care of it, can lead to these really serious health problems. And for the people who have had a story where they had a doctor tell them, they appreciated that in the long run. And so it
Yeah.
sounds like that's the same thing for you. And
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Wow. And so we were in North Carolina. Now you're in Fort Lauderdale. You made it to Florida and you stayed there.
I love
So
it.
fast forward a little bit. Tell us, you finished high school. What did you get up to?
So 11th grade, I actually left the basketball team. That's a whole nother story, and joined a recording group. So
Oh,
I've been a full-time recording artist since 11th grade,
wow.
and we were an a cappella group. We self-produced an album and printed up CDs and hit the streets singing a cappellas for people and sold
Yeah.
our CDs. The day I graduated high school, the night I graduated high school, we rented a van and drove to New York City from Fort Lauderdale
Wow.
and did what we do down here. Up there, we hit the
Yeah.
streets, sang for strangers, sold CDs,
Yeah.
and sold 9,000 CDs, $10 a piece, and got a lot of traction. NBA player moved us in his house, so I lived with a ball player.
Oh,
Yeah, from age 18 to 20, I lived with a New York Knick in his South Florida mansion, and I learned a lot, experienced a lot, and yeah, that's a big piece of my story that I'm proud of. But we didn't. The outcome of that wasn't what we thought it would be because none of us were business people. We were really
uh-huh.
great artists, but we
Yeah.
weren't business people, so we didn't know how to maximize that situation. But it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about material items. I became unimpressed with material items at a young age because a lot of artists, they dream of experiencing the fancy cars and the mansions and the nightclubs with the bottles, and like they work really hard and then spend money on that stuff, but all of that stuff was handed to me. Like I'm rolling
Mhm.
with NBA crews to the club, and I'm not even old enough to get in. And I experienced it really young for free. And I realized very early on, this is nice, but it ain't like when I have $300,000. I don't think I'll buy this car. I'll do something else with it. And I became really wise at a young age because of that. And that kind of led me into the trajectory of the type of songwriting that I do now.
Yeah, and I want to get to the kind of artist you are now, but we're going in order here. But
Sure, take your time.
as a basketball fan, I gotta know who was. Can you tell us?
Yeah, his name was Jerome James. He
Okay.
played for the New York Knicks. He was a center. This is '05 we're talking about.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
met him in '05. Stayed with him from '05 to '07. Great guy, man. Really great guy. He was 7'2". So now when people see somebody that's 6'4" and they're like, "Oh, he's so tall," I'm like, no, he ain't. No, he ain't. He would have like WNBA players like come hang out at the house, and it would be like 6'6" women, and
Yeah.
and I'm just like, wow, I'm a kid. Wow. Uh, but yeah, Jerome, a great person, amazing person. Funny fact, basketball wasn't his passion. His passion was working on cars.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was like, man, honestly, I would work on cars for a living if I could, but my hands are like too big.
They're too big, huh?
Yeah, yo, I learned a lot, bro. I learned a lot from being around him, and
Yeah.
yeah, just experiencing that life. That's why I'm not really phased by much. It's not easy to impress me with anything material because I didn't seen it. You know what I mean?
But how do you run into a like? How did you meet? It's not like today you go online and you can just shoot him a
We
message. It's you just standing in front of the garden being like, need a
no,
place to stay.
we was on South Beach. We were selling CDs on South Beach, singing to people.
Oh.
And I approached their table. They were sitting outside at a restaurant on South Beach, and I approached their table. It was like 10 of them. And I was like, hey, I'm here with my recording group. We want to sing something for you. And they're like, what? The common response, what? Okay, yeah. If you're whack, we're going to tell you. Like, yeah. If we're whack, tell us. We'll get out. Hey, guys, come. All right, let's go. Boom. And we bust the acapella, harmonies, rap verses with beatbox, singing ad libs, harmonies, out. And we sold him a CD. And he said, hey, I got my family reunion next week. I want you to come and sing for my family. How much do y'all charge? And we ain't done anything like that. We huddled. We told him what we charged. And he was like, I'll pay you triple that. Just be there. And we're like, oh. So we sang for his family. They all loved us. Like no track, no nothing, just a cappella for the family. And he was like, hey, listen, I just signed a new NBA contract. I think I want to put some money into music. How y'all feel about being my first act? And he moved us into his 3-bedroom guest house on his 5-acre estate.
That's cool. That's really cool.
That's how that happened. Yeah.
So that's how that happened. And this is no longer, I'm leaving the order, but just a general question about you get on stage, you're performing, and like you talked about earlier, you want to be feeling your best as much as you can, obviously. How do you manage diabetes and performing? Both then, at the very beginning, just going through South Beach, because you can't just be like, hey, let us sing for you 1 second. Let me just check my blood sugars real quick and take some insulin. And then you're right. So, yeah, how was it then versus now?
Then this was even before insulin pens. So I would always have my test kit with me and syringes that I pre-filled with insulin.
Yeah.
And I would always have to carry that with me. Even today on my bags over there, I always have to carry a purse with me, a man purse with either grapes or candy or granola bars or whatever. Because if my sugar drops low and I don't have food, I'm screwed.
Right.
That's to me. I don't care about pricking my finger. It doesn't bother me. Giving shots, whatever, doesn't bother me. Always having to carry food is annoying.
Yeah.
That's my biggest pet peeve about type 1 diabetes is that even as an athlete, I could run 3 miles straight, but after the first 3/4 of a mile, my sugar dropped. And now I need to ingest something. That sucks. But so in my finger pricking days, I averaged pricking my finger between 10 and 14 times a day.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God that I had health insurance because test strips ain't cheap.
Yep.
But yeah, I always need to know where my sugar is before I'm doing something, during something, and after.
Yeah.
That was key. Always checking my sugar and having something on me. In my group, There was three of us. It was me, Chris Winter, and Lex. Lex was 7 years my elder, but he was also type 1 diabetic
Oh, wow.
from the Bahamas. We
Yeah.
had very different upbringings. He's biracial like me, but he was born and raised in Nassau, Bahamas. When I met him, and this goes back to when I first got in my group, my junior year in high school, when I left the basketball team. When I met him, he had been in the States for 2 years with an expired student visa. So he couldn't work and he couldn't get health insurance. So I started giving him my supplies. I
Wow.
started giving him my test strips. I had an extra test kit. I would give it to him. When I met him, and mind you, he's type 1 and he's 7 years older than me. When I met him, he only had cloudy insulin. He didn't have fast acting insulin as a type 1, and he didn't have a test kit. So imagine a type 1 going for years without checking their blood sugar,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it blew my mind because I was so well educated. And I asked him, I was like, yo, when you got diabetes, didn't they put you through a course? What did they tell you? He was like, in Nassau, when I got diabetes, they said, don't drink soda and go easy on the rice. That
Yeah.
was his training. I'm
Wow.
over here getting textbook training about how insulin works and the mechanics of biology. And they're telling him, don't drink soda and stay away from rice. So he was set in his habits by the time I met him. Despite me giving him resources, his habits, I would pick him up and we're going to go sell CDs. Hey, where's your kit? Oh, I left it at home. Where's your insulin? Oh, I left it at home. I'll take it later. And I'm like, man, that's not how it works, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Not how it works. And bless his soul, bless his heart, he passed away from kidney failure in 2011,
Wow.
from not managing his diabetes.
Yeah.
So that's even more reason for me to keep advocacy for diabetes management close to me. Because him and another friend of mine, a friend who's a year younger than me, died about 7 years ago from poor management.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, it's taking young people who aren't paying it close enough attention. I'm paying it attention and I'm paying it attention for other people.
Yeah. And it's this goes to your music as well, which we haven't gone into yet, but like you are an impact artist. Even your website says impact artist. Like the tab on the top when you tab. If you go to alexanderstar.com, a quick plug, on the tab it says impact artist dash Alexander Star. And so I know that making a difference is a really important thing for you, and it sounds like that was true before you'd made it, so to speak.
I hadn't even thought of it like that, but yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, you were helping even the kid in high school, the
Yeah.
kid from Florida.
Yeah.
You were helping him too. Yeah.
Thank you for helping me realize that. I think the impact did start before like my career really started. I like seeing people do well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so now you did the acapella group. You met Lex and was it Chris Winters? Is that what you said? The other guy.
Good memory. Yep.
Acapella group fizzles out, something happens, and then you take on a solo career. What made you decide that your music was going to have like themes that you were going to do? Saying an impact artist is one thing, but going and actually doing it is another thing. And I'm sure it's hard to write songs that resonate with you to that degree.
That's an excellent question. I reached a point where, and I'll take it back to our time with Jerome.
Mm-hmm.
When you're living with an NBA player, you're exposed to a specific lifestyle with people who live certain lifestyles. So when we're at the club, we're around people who spend money. And a lot of being around people who spend money is a lot of people who spend money telling you how they think you should be. And as an artist, being told how you think you should be when you're not solid with who you are intrinsically, you
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of swaying with the breeze, and we made a lot of music that was us, but what we were told to do and what we were recommended to do. Oh, you should do a song like this. Oh, listen to this song on the radio. You should do something like that. And you should do
Yeah.
something like that. And we made a lot of authentically inauthentic songs outside of we're still dope. Like, regardless of what we do, we're dope, but that's not what our spirits would have told us to write. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I just, after the business didn't go through with that situation, and I moved back into my room in my parents' house after 2 years of living in an NBA player's mansion, I thought to myself, of all the music, that I have written and recorded, did I create songs that I want speaking for me after I'm dead?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of transformed my songwriting. And I just took it upon myself. I wasn't even gonna pursue music. Like, I decided to stop writing stuff that wasn't really me. And I went back to school. I went back to college, and I'm back in my room in my parents' house, like I said. And in college, I just started writing really conscious music for myself. And I wasn't really going to share it with anybody. But I had a friend and a mentor, Lex Kelly, different Lex from the Lex in my
I
group,
was about to ask. Yeah.
different Lex, who I would share my music with. And he's like, "Yo, Star, you need to put this out." And I'm like, "Man, nobody wants to hear, like, this is all positive message music. Nobody wants to hear that. Do you hear what's winning? Like, this is just for me, bro." He's a Star, you're wrong, bro. Star, the way you're writing, what you're writing, people want to hear it. And I'm like, nah, man. And I kept it to myself. And then one day at my college, Broward Community College, there was a talent show going on outside I was walking to a math test that I was late for. And the DJ or the MC of the talent show, I didn't even know about the show. I tried to walk past the stage, but he knew me from my group. He was like, "Yo, Alexander Starr, I know Alexander Starr is gonna touch the mic." And I was like, "Nah, dog, I got a math test. I gotta go." And there's a line of people waiting to perform. And he was like, "Come here. And yo, if you perform something, I'll let you skip the whole line. I'll put you up next." And I was like, "But I don't even have a track." He's like, "Man, do some acapella." So I performed a song I had written called Warrior for Life,
Mm-hmm.
which included lyrics about me being a type 1 diabetic. And I did the whole song a cappella and ended up winning the talent show, the whole talent show. Like, I got a camera and just some cool
Yeah.
stuff. And I was like, wow, like, people do want to hear what I got to say. And
Yeah.
that was the turning point. I was like, yo, I messed around and won a talent show that I ain't even trying to be in.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to let nobody hear this. Okay, let me see what I got. So from there, I like fine tuned my ability to write music with a message without being preachy. Because back then I was really preachy. I was like all the way conscious because I was fresh from a Lux lifestyle, out of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go from Lux to message, and I was all the
Yeah.
way message. And I didn't realize it at the time. But now when I listen back, like, I cringe when I listen to my old music. I refine my ability to say it without saying it,
Mm-hmm.
and just give hope while being dope. That's what I do.
So I didn't know this part, but so just to catch the viewers up, when we first met, we had like just dabbled on the idea of you writing a song about diabetes, and we wanted to make it like some sort of educational piece, roll it out together, Project Insulin, Mr. Alexander Starr. I didn't know that it was like once you won a competition using the shell of what would hopefully one day become the song that we were talking about. So that song is what you told me about a year ago, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. And that was the turning point.
Yeah.
Dang, that's like I know we didn't get there yet, but that's like a full circle. Like, this is pretty full
Absolutely.
circle.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
It was
And
like
do you
an
remember?
affirmation that I needed, that I didn't know
Yeah,
I
yeah, wow. That's so cool. You must have gone into that. Did you end up taking the math test or did you just skip
Yeah. Yes, I did. And I probably got an A.
it?
Probably. Yeah. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Sorry, I'm reminiscing on my nerd days. I
Yeah.
really, like, I graduated top of my class, bro, like 4.0.
Yeah, yeah, and it's no longer Broward Community College. It's just Broward College nowadays.
Shout out to you for knowing that. That's why I specifically said Broward Community College, so y'all know my era back then.
No, I know. Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. So that was your like validation to get back into music and to have it be passion, have it to be about impact. And How would you define impact artist? We've talked about it, but would you like? Can you give it a definition?
It's just creating art with intentionality of moving the needle in some way. Whatever it is that you're creating, there's passive and then there's active. Some people create art just to be like, oh, let me just express myself. I create art
Mm-hmm.
to express myself, but also to encourage other people. I like highlighting inner glow in people that they don't see. I use my inner light to amplify other people's inner light because I understand self confidence is really rare, especially in social media era. People look for their inner value outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to just recenter your focus back to inside of you rather than trying to seek validation. So I don't know. I feel like so few of us have found that inner glow that
Mm-hmm.
it's our job when you do have that inner glow, rather than just glowing and like letting people witness your glow. Like,
Bask. Yeah.
yeah, I glow so that I can let you know that you are capable. You have a glow too. You don't see it? I see it. Look right there. Yo, the way that you do yo, they're like, yo, that beard, that's dope, man. I wish I could do my beard like that. Like, I don't know, man. I always find something to compliment
Mm-hmm.
everyone on. Everybody has something that they can be complimented on. People don't go out of their way to compliment people. And my nature, for some reason, is to find something to compliment in everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, Nature in some good reasons, for some good reasons, that's what you do. And this, so tell me, like, one way I know that you've done this is the kids. I don't know the details of it that because I know you and Ed's a childhood friend of mine. That is how me and Mr. Star met. But you guys tell us about it because I like don't have enough info.
Since late 2013, I have led therapeutic songwriting and recording sessions for teens in foster care, teens in lockdown, teens in Department of Juvenile Justice, and even teens out of the system in Montessori schools and things like that. I bring songwriting and lyrical expression into kids' lives in a way where I don't jump in as a mentor or as a teacher or a therapist or whatever. I just come and be dope in front of them and show them that they're dope too. And it's I come in as a peer, like a really talented peer who does music for a living, and I expose them to my process. I basically get to be me in front of kids and bring them in on my sessions. Hey, so the point that this is the topic we're writing about. What do you think about this topic? Then I get bullet
Mm-hmm.
points on what they're saying. I have them give me bullet points and be like, yo, you know what? It sound really dope if you took this and you rhymed it with this. These are their words, their phrasing. Yo, if you
Yeah.
say this, but then you say this, and then I'll rap it to them. I'll sing it to them. What do you think about that? Oh, that sounds good. Okay, cool. Do me a favor, say it like this, and I'm gonna record you. And then I'm literally just being a kid with them. And
You're
but
playing. You're all playing together.
we're playing, and I'm a professional while I'm playing as a
Yeah.
peer. And then we do a finished product, and then I play it back. They're like, "That's me," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's us. Let's go." And then we got hits. You give a kid something to be proud of, and that will live with them beyond your moment with them.
Yeah.
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 So that's
Yeah.
what I do. That's what I've been doing for a while.
And to that point, you've been doing that in South Florida, but I know you're going on tour next week, I think. This is 3 months ago, whenever the podcast comes out, but next week for real time,
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And tell us about what do you like, how are you doing impact, being an impact artist while you're on tour?
Woo! Well, first and foremost, I'm going out with my live band, the best, some of the best musicians in the world. Lem, CJ, Jordan, BX, and our front of house Chris. We're bringing the Alexander Star and the Golden People Experience to the Midwest, Ohio and Michigan. We got a few city stops, and we're really excited because this is my first headline tour for performing arts centers and theaters and amphitheaters, like little block parties. This is the marquee outside of the theater, Friday night, Alexander Star and the Golden
Yeah.
People, right? I get to perform 90 minutes of original music with my live musicians with whom I've been playing for 5, 6 years now. We're family, and we are a living, breathing musical organism on stage with impact music as the root foundation of our show. just giving hope while being dope hope. That's what I summarize it as. We do dope hope. And it's such a benchmark in my career to finally be on the road as an artist, and not I'm not just doing like DJ and a microphone. This is full live production. When we pull up, they got our drum set up. They rented the keyboards that my keyboardist asked for. They so an add-on that we offer, and I think this is what you want me to get at is, let's say we're doing Dayton on the 13th, which we are. On the 12th, I'm doing like what they call a student outreach or a student workshop. So on the 12th, I'm spending an hour or two with a group of kids selected by the venue or brought in by whoever reached out to the kids. And we're going to write and record something original around a topic that I'm going to present. And I'm just going to connect with the kids. And then on show day, somewhere in my set, probably towards the end, I'm gonna stop the music and I'll be like, "Hey man, before I get out of here, we came in town yesterday and we got to work with some really cool kids. Man, hey, Jeffrey, Jennifer, April, come on stage real quick. I played this song for them and this is the concept and they wrote this. Y'all want to hear them perform what we wrote yesterday? Cool, boom, boom. Now we got kids from the community on stage with the headlining band performing something original that they wrote for their hometown. And that experience in my times of doing it so far is not only do the kids remember it, their siblings remember it, their parents remember it, their friends remember it, everybody. And we get to leave a long lasting impact through empowering people to just be honest and outgoing through music. That was long winded.
No, that was perfect. That
Yeah.
was perfect. That was, you showed the excitement. So people tell me pretty often that they can see the passion when I talk about what I do. And so it's cool to see that reflect. Like, I'm on the other side now. Like, I'm watching someone else be really passionate about the work that they do. So yeah, no, not long-winded at all. That was a perfect explanation of
Appreciate you,
your
man.
work. And it's such a cool way to get your community involved. Yeah, so that's awesome.
Thank you, bro.
And yeah, it's so cool to hear you like talking about like this being one of the big benchmarks for you, because you've done like Super Bowl songs, like you've worked with the NFL, you've worked with big people, like you've done all these, you do anthems for different places and different like opportunities and stuff. And it's that stuff is cool, but you haven't touched on it at all. Like, you haven't talked about it. Like, I was gonna bring it up, maybe as a side thing. And yeah, it's cool to hear you like talking about, like, this is the piece that's super cool, and maybe not career defining, but this is a career moment you're gonna keep close to your heart. So yeah, it's just cool. It's cool to hear you talk about it.
I appreciate you noticing the intricacies of how I communicate and what I communicate and why. Because I don't think about it, and then you bring it up. I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. And yeah, okay. So I have ADD, right? Not There's no H. It's not ADHD. I'm
Yep.
not that hyper until I get excited about something. And I say this in my shows too. Like, ADD is a superpower. ADHD is a superpower. It's simply we're the people who are programmed to ignore everything that we're not passionate about.
Yeah.
That's what ADD is. Because anybody with ADD, like, if they don't care about it, it's you're not paying attention. But when we care about something, we're locked
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And this is, yeah, you're exposing to me that I'm exposing to you what I'm locked in about. Career wins are cool. Corporate is cool. It's amazing to be able to do this for a living. And I can honestly say that the anthems that I write for major entities, I'm able to do that because of my years cutting my teeth, being able to impress kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to go into a prison and impress the kids who are locked up for adult actions. When you go in there, and you can't go in there singing about rainbows and unicorns and sunshine, and because life ain't that for them. It never was. I go in there with topics and I have to impress them with my command of my artistry, and I'm able to do that. I'm able to take a topic, take a concept, and then use lyricism and language and melody to just do something dope. Like I said, say it without saying it. I'm big on metaphors.
Yeah.
I use it all the time when I talk because that's the only way I know how to communicate. That's the only way I know how to get ideas out is metaphors. And to get you to understand the way I see it, I have to say it in metaphor. So my ability to write anthems that connect with causes that are bigger than me comes from my ability to connect with people who I don't know, but I need to get to open up. It's just there's just I don't know. It's a connectivity that can't really be taught. I just do it. I'm so ready to go off on a tangent right now. I think it's got to do with my mixed race as well, because I'm Black and Jewish, born and raised vegetarian in a small town, growing up in Tennessee. I was never anything like anyone in any room that I found myself in. So I have to find just to just to coexist amongst the world. I have to find the common humanality in everyone that I'm around. I find commonality in being a human. That's how I relate to other humans because most other humans ain't Black, Jewish, vegetarian. So I don't really belong to a big group. I'll never be homogenous, right?
Yeah.
I'll always be other, always. So because I'm always other, I don't fit into any box. I don't reside in any box. I contribute to and take from whatever box. I go anywhere, talk to anybody.
It's interesting because it's like you're taking the best out of all the pieces of your life and putting them together into the Alexander Starr experience, right? It's you're taking vegetarianism, you're taking being Black, you're taking being Jewish, and you're bringing them together, and that's who you are, right? That is really interesting. And you didn't mention diabetes as one of your identifiers there. And
You know
so,
what's funny? I thought it and I didn't say it. I don't know why. Probably because I thought it was a given. But yeah, diabetic as well. You know what? That's really valid. That does make me very different from a lot of people too. Fair point. Yeah, I'm other.
because it was more of a question than a like why didn't you put it in there, because some people don't want to identify with diabetes as being a part of their personality. It's like something they deal with, but it's not a part of who they are. So I'm curious, it sounds like for you that's not the case, or maybe it is.
Yeah, I love the introspection. See, this is why I like this is not a music podcast.
We went on a music tangent, but we're back.
Yeah. So that's actually a great point because I'm so used to is muscle memory of speaking with people who either A aren't interested in the intricacies of type 1 diabetes or I just don't feel like educating anybody. Like I'm used to speaking with people who I won't go in depth with
Yeah.
about that. So it didn't cross my mind to say that, but it is a part of how I live because no matter what I do, like I have to be cognizant of T1D in everything that I do to stay alive. Like I said before, if I'm gonna do anything, if I'm gonna go on stage, if I'm gonna work out, if I'm gonna get in a car, if I'm gonna whatever, what's my blood sugar and which direction is it going? Do I have food with me? How much insulin is on board? Am I about in an hour? Will I be doing rigorous activity? All these details that I have to think every day, I'm on autopilot.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I don't look at it as a disease or condition. It's a responsibility. So I guess I've strapped this responsibility on a backpack that I forgot I'm wearing.
Yeah, if something bothers you, let's say your shirt, it's itchy. And so for a bit, it's itchy, but then after a while, you're like, no, it's just a shirt. You get used to it. I think it's a little bit more than just a t-shirt being a little itchy, but same kind of principle there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. And you had mentioned earlier, no, not on this call, but previously we had talked and you told me about when you're performing, you these are the things that run through your mind right before you get on stage. And I told you about this athlete program we're trying to start. I will get to it for the viewers later. That's still top secret for now. But I interviewed a student athlete, and her interview comes out before yours, so people will know what I'm talking about now. And she talks about, like, yeah, game day comes, and if she's not feeling good, she doesn't go out and she doesn't race. And that's really hard, right? This is all you do. Obviously, student but she trains for this every single day. And race day comes and she's like, no, I can't because I'm going to put myself in a bad position
Mhm.
for my health wise. And so I'm curious about like your experience with that, with diabetes. How has it affected your performing career?
I'll dive into some of the idiosyncrasies. I feel like I've used that word 3 times in this interview so far, but it's valid. I notice different performance days and different performances of different pressure levels do different things to my blood sugar.
Mm-hmm. Tell us
Cer-
more.
Certain performances, my sugar will drop, right? But other performances, even if I've had nothing, it'll shoot to the 300s. And that is almost it attests to how it's also very attached to mental. Your blood sugar is just as much mental as it is physical because certain stressors will make your blood sugar go up. And certain performances have done that. And I don't understand because I'm like, yo, I didn't eat anything today. Why is my sugar in the 300s?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get off stage and I'm like, damn, yo, I gotta pee. Why? And I check my sugar and I'm like, oh, snap. And then other days when it's less pressure, like most of the time I'm on autopilot. I've put in my 30,000 hours or whatever you want to call it. And a lot of the time when I'm on stage and I'm performing, I'm so on autopilot, like I'm daydreaming and talking to myself while I'm giving a performance. And nobody knows it because I'm so locked in. Those performances don't raise my blood sugar. It's the performances that I really have to think about that cause my sugar to go up. And maybe it's because my body knows that I can't drop low doing this.
When the stakes are higher.
When the stakes are high, like your body knows. And that's why I'm not even convinced. I'm not even convinced that I have type 1 diabetes. I know that sounds stupid. I feel like my pancreas just forgot that it can do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, this has been great. This has been great. Thank you. Like this has been a great conversation. It's great to see how excited you are about diabetes, about your work, about all the things you're passionate about. I guess my question for you is you get diagnosed with diabetes in 10th grade.
Mhm.
You start pursuing this dream of yours to be a musician. What would you tell the little kids who are just diagnosed with diabetes, the adults who get diagnosed later on in life and have to like shift their world? How would you motivate them to continue pursuing their dreams?
So that answer would be different to every individual with whom I speak.
Yeah.
There's not one motivator that I think blankets everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's motivated by something different. And I guess the key nugget that I could give is whatever it is you're passionate about, invest in that. Don't invest in do what you need to do, right? Handle your responsibilities, but you really like until you find your passion, you're not really living. Until you if I was an accountant right now, this interview would not be sounding like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't be passionate. I wouldn't be impacting people. How could I impact people with diabetes through accounting? I'm gonna do your taxes so great that you're gonna want to take care of yourself. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
you're insulting all the accountants out there.
No, I'm
For you. Yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
Yeah,
For the record, accounting one put a hole in my wall in college.
yeah.
There's just something about it that is okay. I have a great account and I'm understanding everything that's happening, but it's not my passion. It's not my
Yeah.
call, right? So if you're gonna do anything in life, find a way to enjoy what you're doing because that's what you're like. What you naturally enjoy, I believe, is what you're meant to do. You can find a way to whatever it is that your passion is, you can find a way to make it help other people.
Yeah, and I like that you didn't say make a career out of it, right? Like people always talk about like work and your passions, but your passions don't have to be your job. Like it's almost like it defeats the purpose of passion sometimes,
Mm.
to make your passion your job, because then it ruins it, because it's no longer that thing that just gives you joy. It's tarnished to a degree. So I like that your suggestion, your recommendation isn't go pursue your passions as a career. It's just like, make sure you have time for it, and you enjoy it, and it fills you the way you want it to fill you. Yeah.
And that's the best way to make it a career. That's the best way to make money. When your intention is to simply help other people with your gift, people will pay you to help them because
Hmm.
that's your gift. If
Yeah.
you don't look for the money in it, you just naturally build up a value that nobody can take away, and people will pay you to do what you do. That's my story. I didn't come in this, I want to be a famous singer because my voice is so amazing and everybody should know my name and who, that's never been my approach. I could care less if people run up to me in the grocery store when they see me. But I write music that I believe can electrify inner glow in other people. And the people that I want coming up to me are the people who calmly approach, yo, you're Alexander Starr. Yo, that song you wrote, man, thank you for that. Quote some
Yeah.
lyrics that I wrote, like something like that. I like to be known by the people who appreciate the art I create.
Yeah.
I don't need to be a household name. I honestly don't care to be a household name.
Yeah.
Unless I'm positively impacting somebody's life. So that's the story of why and how I became an impact artist and why I'm even still doing this, because I know a lot of people in the music industry who have had really successful decorated careers and they have credits and names that they've worked with that I'm like, man, I wish I had credits like you. And I'm at the point in my career where those people are coming to me saying, nah, I want to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah. That's
That all that is cool, but what you're doing, that's what I wish I could be doing. Let's collaborate. And that's how I know that my purpose is.
that. No better way to wrap this up than with that. Mr. Alexander Starr, thank you for joining us on Project Podcast presented by Project Insulin. It was a pleasure having you on. You can listen. Where can we hear your music?
AlexanderStar.com. I say
Um,
this, right? You can stream my music. I'm on Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube everywhere, right? But I gotta let everybody know. For every stream, we get 0.003-ish cents, right? A million streams. If you stream my song a million times right now, I might make $2,000
yeah.
for like a million streams.
Yeah.
Uh, consume my music via my website
Yeah.
and download it for $1. If you still have iTunes, download it. Like if you like it, direct to consumer.
Yeah.
AlexanderStar.com. Join the mailing list. When I'm on tour, I'm gonna have CDs. One CD is equivalent to, if you buy one CD for $15, that's the equivalent of 6,700 streams.
That sounds like that is a conversation we need to have for another day. But
Yeah.
you
Direct.
heard it here. If you want to support Mr. AlexanderStar.com. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will be back next week with another episode.